Welcome back, y'all. This is the Blue Chip Breakdown, and we are your hosts, Bull and P. And actually, it just says Bull right there. I probably should have fixed that. But either way, this one is going to be quick. Just wanted to come to y'all and just chat it up for just a minute about what's been going on, or what just happened with Georgia beating Texas in the SEC Championship. What does it mean for our Tennessee Volunteers as far as the playoff picture goes? First and foremost, we talked about it. Well, we didn't talk about it all week, but we did talk about it some this week about if Georgia can hold Texas to the same amount of rushing yards per carry that they did in the previous game, that they would win. And if you take a look at this right here, you can see that Texas again rushed for 1 yard per carry. I have no idea why they are the only team on the face of this planet that cannot run the football on Georgia. They cannot get movement up front. And even though coming out of the second half, right, Carson Beck is injured. He just comes back for the final play, hands the football off, can't even really move his arm. So, I think that says a lot. But, I think that it says even more about who Steve Sarkisian is as a head coach, who Texas is as a team. It's supposed to be this great defense that, oh, man, the run stopping is just phenomenal. I told you, right? Like, we sat down, I showed you film and all that type of stuff. Watched it very closely. Their defensive tackles get moved, right? And then their linebackers are very slow to react. Even their safeties, everybody that's supposed to be getting into their run fits, they are a pass-first team on defense all the time. The problem has been teams have not stuck to the run versus Texas. But what we're seeing right here for Georgia is they went 34 carries for $127. And again, man, they stopped Texas's run game. So whenever that happens, it's almost impossible to win, especially, whenever you can't get anything going on offense. Like we saw a couple of deep shots from Sark. I don't think that they stuck to the run quite enough, too much outside zone. Told you, inside zone. If you're going to run to the outside, it needs to be power. Pull some people around, versus those light boxes for Georgia. But my biggest takeaway, P, is going to be that watching both of these teams play, I feel like, man, Tennessee would beat the brakes off of either one of them, especially now that we're talking about Georgia might not have Beck, and that actually might benefit them because Beck is garbage. And they looked a lot better once Stockton came in because they stuck to the running game more and all that type of stuff. But the biggest question, I think, for us is what's going to happen if, and of course, Georgia's not going to just lay this out there, but if the people voting on this stuff look and say, okay, well, Carson Beck only came in for one play, he couldn't really move his arm. If they use common sense, which they don't have a whole lot of, but if they use that, then they'll say, okay, well, maybe Georgia, maybe they're not that good, even though they won this game. But what does it say about Texas? With 0 top 25 losses to this point in the season, maybe they drop. I don't think that they would drop enough for Tennessee to get out of, or for Tennessee to get into a hosting spot. So that's probably out the window. Of course, Oregon versus Penn State, that's coming up right here, right now. We got to get to that here very shortly, but please do make sure to like and subscribe. But P, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I echo the same sentiments, man. I think as far as for, as Tennessee's related, I think we need Georgia to lose to have any chance to move up. Just my opinion. I think if Texas could have come out here and kind of beat them the way they probably should have, I think, 2-3 scores. I think Georgia's chance they could have dropped to maybe the 10 seed, and that would have bumped us up to the 8, and it would have, bumped Ohio State up to the 7, Indiana up to the 9. So we would have been hosting Indiana. I kind of saw that scenario possibly playing out, but I don't think Texas will drop a ton. Where they fall, I don't know, but I don't think they'll drop past us. They've lost twice to the same team. I don't know who they've beaten. I don't know a quality team they've beaten all season.
They have 0 top 25.
Yeah, wins. Heck, you want to give A&M their best win? I don't know who they've beaten this season, but I don't know what it was today. They just same thing I saw when I watched the film of their last matchup. Man, just the play calling is atrocious. The play design is atrocious. I also understand what in the world they're doing. And, and to your point, man, about the secondary and the linebackers, they're very slow to read and react to the run game. This is a Georgia team that couldn't, I don't know how many yards they went for against us, but it wasn't that much. It wasn't as much they ran against them. And and then for you guys to go and only rush for 36 against them, like you said, every team that's faced these guys has had success running the ball, and you guys can't do it. That's supposed to be what you do. And so that's kind of my whole point in talking about their strength schedule. I don't know who they've played. They're a very unbattle-tested team. And I think their team, as soon as they face any resistance in the playoffs, any of the teams, not, any teams maybe not named Boise, they'll probably get past Boise, probably get past Indiana. Maybe was that Arizona State? Maybe. big maybe. But the rest of the teams they play, I mean, Penn State included, rest of those teams, Notre Dame included, rest of those teams, SMU included, rest of those teams, Clemson included, rest of those teams, they'll freaking beat those guys. And same goes for Georgia. I think, honestly, I know you talk about Carson Beck. Potentially, maybe they're better with Gunnar Stockton, maybe, because he is a dual threat guy. But I think we kind of saw after that first drive when he came in and started second half. And I figured anytime you see a new quarterback, if he's somewhat competent, if he's not just a complete just mental blowout guy, whatever, like, he's going to probably have success because they haven't game plan for him. So he'll probably have success his first drive, and he did. I think they kind of settled in and kind of shut him down for the most part after that. And so I think that their team that's as vulnerable as they were with Carson Beck, I think they're even more vulnerable with Gunnar Stockton. Heck, I mean, he got concussed on that last play he was in. You know what I mean? I mean, he was concussed, and hey, I tip my hat to him. Post-game interview was coherent, spoke articulate, did all the, probably passes his concussion protocol test, but put him in a high leverage situation, reading defenses, things are happening fast. See how he can play. I don't know. Do you trust him or do you trust a guy that can't even use his right arm? Oh, and by the way, he's right-handed, or, which one do you trust more? So I think Georgia's dead in the water. This just prolongs the inevitable for those guys. 2 seed, they'll probably be the 2 seeds. So they'll get the winner of the 7-10 seed. So I don't know. We'll see how it shakes out. But they may have a pretty easy draw. I'm not sure. But like I said, as long as they, don't have to play a Boise, Arizona State, or whoever the other team was, I said, as long as they don't play in those 3 teams, I think any of the other teams in the field will beat those guys. But anyway, hey, tough loss for Texas. Sark, terrible game plan from you. Should have played Arch Manning more. Quinn Ewers, you kept costing us the game. He made some good throws too. That's kind of who he is, live by sword, die by sword type of guy. But overall, man, just piss poor performance from those guys.
Yeah, I would echo all those same sentiments. So let's talk about Tennessee. So at this point, right, we know the Texas was at 2. I think that they'll drop probably down to number 5, possibly number 6. It just really all depends on, and we have no idea, right? Because we don't know, because they move the goalposts every single week to fit the matchups that they want. But let's just say, in fairness sake, that they maybe just drop to number 5. That happens, all of a sudden, everyone else bumps down just another notch. So now we would have Penn State at number 6, just before this game even starts. Then we would have not Georgia at 7. It would be Ohio State would be at 7, because I think Georgia would move up. And actually, yeah, so Georgia would move up to number 2, right? Okay, so Ohio State moves up to 7.
Well, no, Ohio State would drop to 9. Everybody drops.
Wait a second.
Wait
a second. Who am I missing? Oh, okay. Notre Dame.
Goes to 7.
Notre Dame goes to 7. Okay, yeah.
Or no?
Yeah, no. So Notre Dame is at 7, and then I guess that would probably keep Ohio State and Tennessee at 8 and 9.
I don't know.
Is that right?
No, because they're
5. No. All right, no. Because really,
5 went to 6.
Yeah. So all right. Yeah. So Texas goes to 5. Penn State goes to 6. Okay. Notre Dame goes to 7.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
And then Arizona State 7.
Yeah. So the only team that really gets a bump is Texas and Notre Dame. Mm-hmm. So that's how I guess that would look at this point, which wouldn't make any difference for us at this moment. But go ahead.
Now, another piece of that is if Clemson beats SMU, how does that change things? Where does Clemson fit in? Or Clemson will be the 3 or 4, or whatever. But then where does SMU? Because I don't think SMU will fall out. So do they just replace Bama?
Clemson goes to 4. Boise goes to 3.
Yeah. And so would SMU just replace Bama? Or they
excuse me. So Clemson. All right. So in that situation, if Clemson does beat SMU, which I do think is probably going to happen, because we watched SMU versus UNLV earlier this season. We saw what UNLV did versus Boise State. That game with UNLV versus SMU was very, very close. And yeah, that was early in the season, but SMU is not a very good football team. So I think that they will end up losing to Clemson, but I think that they go to the 11 seed. So you would put Clemson at 4. If I'm not mistaken, because I think it's Clemson. Let's go back. I have to see who's ranked higher between Clemson and Arizona State, because Arizona State did win, so they are in. Where's Clemson out on here, PDs? Okay, so Clemson's at 17 and Arizona State. Okay, so actually Clemson would go to 12. Clemson would go to 12 if I'm not mistaken, unless they would bump them up some. If they bump them up some, then there would be, wherever they end up ranking them at, if it's above the number 12. And if they end up ranking them above Arizona State, then, whoever's the highest ranked out of Arizona State and Clemson would be that 4th seed. Okay, so let's bring it on back over. So at this point now we're talking about I think SMU might get retained. Okay, I think that if you're doing it fair, then it would be. But we all know that this stuff ain't fair. They want to put Alabama in, even though there's absolutely no logical explanation for that. But Bama would probably get in at 11. If it's not Bama, then it's probably going to be SMU, more than likely. Again, unless Clemson or Arizona State is at that number 11 spot. So for Tennessee, all these things don't really make too much of a difference at this point, though, because we just bumped Penn State down to number 6. So now they're only 2 spots away from us. What could end up happening if they lose this game, like let's just say if they lose it by a relatively close margin, what would happen is they would probably go ahead of us to that number 9 seed, and then Tennessee goes to 10. At that point, it would be Tennessee versus the 7 seed. Who do we say 7 was? 7 is Notre Dame. So then Tennessee would go see Notre Dame. If I'm calculating all this stuff up right, and we're doing this on the fly. So that's about how things are looking at this point. But like we keep on telling y'all, I don't care. It doesn't matter. Like, bring on anybody. Georgia didn't look great by any means. We already talked about their quarterback situation. They ain't going to run the ball down our throats. Our defensive tackles do not get moved like that. Okay, we talked about Jalen Smith transferring out. We don't know what's going to happen with that come Monday morning. Either way, whether he's here or not, our linebackers don't play like Texas linebackers do. We get downhill pretty quickly. So the whole run fit thing, the whole run the ball down our throats, don't really see that happening versus anybody. So that's not a question. That's not an issue for me. So not worried about that from Georgia.
So in your opinion, you kind of look at this field here, and you kind of have Clemson as well as that kind of that 12th, that 13th team. Who do you think will be the toughest matchup for Tennessee out of these teams left? When I look at this matchup, when I look at this field, I mean, honestly, I think the road that we travel, with what we're seeing right here, going through Ohio State, Oregon, or potentially Penn State, I think honestly, squad's kept. I think it's those 3 Big Ten teams. I mean, I feel confident against. Bama is always, they're always Bama, or whatever. But I mean, I feel confident against Georgia. I feel confident against Texas, Indiana, Notre Dame. That whole side of the bracket, I feel very confident. I feel confident against our side too. But I think Ohio State challenges they provide is, they're very athletic on defense. They have a lot of skill guys on secondary and things like that. They haven't looked great, but if they play the right scheme, we've talked about this before. Our offensive scheme, I think it plays to the advantage of very athletic defenses, because we're playing in space, and so we're one-on-one, and so if you're very athletic, you can potentially match up, and it can give us trouble. Them, Oregon. I mean, I was impressed with them leading up to the Ohio State game. Honestly, that was like 3rd game of the season. Whatever, haven't watched them since, so really don't know who they are, what they're about. We'll see them tonight. So maybe them, and then I think Penn State. I think they're athletic on the defense side of the ball as well. So I can see them posing an issue. But my thing is, especially Ohio State and Penn State, their offenses are pretty trash. So I mean, can they score the ball on us? Would be a big question. Oregon supposedly has a decent offense. I don't know, but there's really not a team that I look at on here that I mean, I feel very confident. Regardless of, like you said, it doesn't matter who it is, where they put us at 12 seed, doesn't matter. We'll put us wherever you want. We'll go on the road every single game. I don't care. I like the way this team, you talk about D-line, secondary, we can cover, we can stop the run. You talk about our offense, we can run the ball. And, hey, by the way, Nico Imavava, redshirt freshman, he's finally starting to figure it out. Pass game's coming. I feel confident against any team in the field right now.
Yeah. So I would say for me, Notre Dame, I think Notre Dame looks pretty solid because of the way that they're built with their front 7. There's some things that I see from them that could maybe pose some threats to us. I'm not saying that I would pick us to lose that game, but to me, like if you're talking about the most challenging, Notre Dame would be the first one that comes to mind for me. I would probably, after that, Oregon and Ohio State. Those are the other 2 that I look at and say, okay, could be some challenges there. But I've already talked to y'all about the Buckeyes and, watch them a whole lot on film. I think that we can, again, run the football on them. That's what I'm more looking at. What teams stop what we do the best? That's what I'm looking at. And what we do the best is run the football, and what teams can run the football well on the other side, which is something else that Tennessee does well. There's not teams that I'm looking at that's like, okay, I feel like they're going to move us. I feel like they're going to have success doing it, because with those Big Ten teams, it's not a lot of misdirection. It really isn't. Like, they do some little gimmicky things, but it's not like what you would see from Florida, where it's a lot of pre-snap movement and real, true, legitimate misdirection. So I'm right there with you, Pete. There still isn't anybody that really, truly concerns me. As long as we are playing, I would say at least. I'm not even gonna say at least on the how we played up against Vanderbilt level, but I would say as long as we can run the ball, stop the run, and as long as we have some sort of a comparable passing game, I think that we can play versus anybody. Because I mean, you look at some of these Big Ten teams, they've got great rosters. It looks good on paper, but what happens whenever you don't sharpen your skills? They tend to get pretty dull, right? Like you got to sharpen up all of your tools, or they get dull, right? Because you're using them and you're not using it versus any sort of resistance. And that's what happens in the Big Ten. Their schedule, they play, we're talking about the big three here, Ohio State, Penn State, and Oregon. Everyone else, those are the only three teams up there. Indiana sucks. I mean, like we haven't even talked about Indiana sucks. That's a non-factor. But you're playing up against non-competition every single week. You're getting dull. And that's what I've seen is that a lot of their stuff, it's just like, hey, man, it's almost like you haven't been practicing. It's almost like you haven't been, and I'm being very genuine whenever I say that. So I'm not worried about that versus those teams. They might start the game off pretty well. Some people might get they might get scared. But once it gets into a real game, once it settles into a game, I think the Tennessee could be anybody that's left. So I'm not too concerned about it. But we did want to bring that to y'all just real quick. That's how it's looking right now. I don't think that Tennessee can host. It all just depends on how the people voting on this stuff look at it, because there's a lot of different ways. You can say, well, look, Texas lost twice to the same team, which I think should be a huge knock on you. You lose to the same team twice, and then, oh, by the way, backup quarterback in the second half, and you still couldn't run the football. Maybe y'all ain't that damn good. You have 0 top 25 wins. They really should have never been ranked as high as they've been. So could they drop pretty far without hosting? I think that it's possible. I mean, I'm not saying that it's going to happen, but I think that is possible. So
yeah. I mean, that's the thing. You just never know what the committee's thinking, and how they're going to look at these things. But yeah, I mean, it's possible. I think it's possible. I mean, you lost twice to the same team, and oh, by the way, like I said, their backup quarterback was in the game. Oh, and by the way, you were absolutely dominating the stat sheet at the end of the first half. I mean, we talked about it. They were outgaining them over 200 yards total offense, Texas to Georgia. And then to find a way to let them come back and to lose that game. I mean, that's unbelievable for me. So I don't know. We'll see. We don't have no idea what the committee is going to do. All we know is Georgia, and whoever else wins these conference championships will be your top 4 seeds. I think Tennessee probably stays where they're at. I think us and Ohio State are probably going to be a lock to play each other. And unless maybe Oregon blows out Penn State, which I saw someone in the comments had mentioned that, I think Oregon dog walks. I think if they blow them out by 3 touchdowns, maybe Penn State drops from where they at now, 5. Maybe they drop to like 8 or 9, and then maybe we go there. Maybe they come here, whatever. But I mean, like I said, I mean, we feel confident against whoever we play. The only reason I mentioned Bama as a potential team, I think we have a quarterback that's that dynamic. It's always like an X factor. So like it always kind of scary because you can have the greatest game plan in the world, but a guy like that can still kind of beat you. We've done it before, right? We've beat him already. We should have beat him last year as well. But that game, I'll always kind of have that one just because of what Milroe can do. But I mean, the rest of these teams, man, I think we have every chance. It's a deal where if we don't win the whole thing, hey, we're gonna have to blame it on Coach Heupel. You know what I'm saying? I mean, seriously. I mean, because how you're losing to any of these teams. So, but anyway, I'm excited about it, man. We're about to go in here and watch, this Big Ten game, ACC game. But I'm excited to see who we play officially and get ready to get this thing kicked off here in a week or two.
Yeah, so I don't know what time everything comes out tomorrow, but we will be coming back to you tomorrow. I don't know if we'll come back tonight after the Penn State and Oregon game, but at this point, I feel like Oregon is at least dropped down to number 6. So if they're at number 6 and we're currently at number 9, I guess, with the seeding, we will see what happens with all that stuff. But anyway, I know that we did not get to the comments, but
good ones in there.
Yeah. Sorry, y'all, but we will try to get back to some of the comments here later on. But thank y'all so much for tuning in. And please do make sure to like and subscribe to the channel. And we'll be coming back out with some more information as soon as we get some more information. Thank y'all so much. Peace.